And what's the best location when I'm working with the client as a consultant to help you? The placement of the track is really minimal when it comes to some ancient or old ideas of where track placement should be. If you've seen me before and heard me before, you know I love the old white Lords of the Rings, the people from the Chariots of Fire that wrote the original track and field rule books. And they said that a runner who is running around a track, if there is a fixed curb, K-E-R-B, in place, will run 30 centimeters off that curb. Nice notation. They must have been sitting there drinking some Booth Bay gin, martinis, when they came up with that at some club in London. There's an old notation in the old rule book says, in the northern hemisphere, the orientation of the track should be east-west. Why? Maybe the sun got in their eyes or something. And this is before they had these high-speed cameras and all the technical devices we have. But a number of these notions, which was started in Europe predominantly by the white Lords of the Rings, have now become either no longer practical, no longer useful, or certainly sometimes not good for optimal design and layout for a facility. So let's just address a couple of the myths real quickly. There's sheets here that has an outline in the back row. I don't know if I got all the way to the back, but there's a couple of extra ones floating around. Let's talk first about the prevailing winds. When I go to a consultant, and that coaching background, all I'm talking about is prevailing winds. It's the first question I ask. If I'm in New York, designing Icon Stadium just east of the East River, proximate to the Atlantic Ocean, when am I going to run in an outdoor facility the large proportion of my track and field competitions? What months of the year? That's all I care about. Not in January, not in February, not in March. Unfortunately, they built it backwards, meaning they striped it wrong and put the main stands on the wrong side of the straightaway when they eventually did the job, because I was off the job because I was an early free consultant from USA Track and Field, but when they really got going, they put the stands on this side and we ran into the prevailing winds. When we hosted our national championship at that same site a year and a half later, I had to go back out and they spent $140,000 remediating that by restriping it. There are now 2 complete sets of 400-meter marks on that track. It's a Tower of Babel trying to find out where a hurdle belongs. We shifted the steeplechase pit and built another one in the second D zone. We moved pole vault boxes to the other D zone because of that mistake. Over $140,000 in work. There are some vagaries to this one. I'll tell you honestly, we didn't boo-boo this one, but in the Icon Stadium in New York, under what I described, out inside D Zone 2, we put the pole vault runway across the D Zone in the classic fashion. The vaulters start at the head of the runway, and the windsock is blowing exactly as I described. And this meet is held on the first week of June. It's the Adidas, it's on the Diamond League schedule, and it is a Grand Prix meet with a lot of money and a lot of points for these athletes in their career. The vaulters came to me, and they were moaning and groaning that when they got 20 foot from the plant box, they were getting a little wind into their face. Because we're on video, I'm not going to use some of my Brooklyn terms, but I said, not exactly possible. I can't believe you guys. Well, I went down there. There's a prison hospital on Randall's Island, Rikers Island, right up the road. The wind was vortexing around the building and coming down, and it actually was creating a little bit of a breeze that hit them across their face coming in. And pole vaulters do not like wind in their face when they're coming into a plant box. So in essence, try as best you can to lay the track out, all other things being equal, where the runners on the sprint straightaway are either getting a direct aiding wind or assisted by a prevailing wind coming from a quarter or a quarter. Okay? Simple as that. The sun. Don't worry about the sun. We used to be told that we couldn't orient it into a setting sun, north-south, and that we couldn't put the main stands on the east side because then the camera would be shooting into the sun and the officials with their stopwatches would be looking into the afternoon sun. Yeah. Don't worry about it. The cameras, NBC, films from any location we have into a sun, not into a sun, it doesn't matter. Wherever they are, they are. And to be honest with you, when do we run most of our television shows now in this day and age? We're not going Saturday afternoons at 1 o'clock anymore. We're 4 to 6 p.m., 6 to 8. Everything is cable primetime TV. So if that's the consideration of film, if it's a consideration of the officials with the stopwatches, we don't use them anymore. With electronic timing, there are no officials on the finish line anymore. They have 2 cameras mounted on poles, color cameras at the highest level, which give you 2 views of every start to the 1,000th of a second. We don't have officials on the finish line anymore, so that rules that out. And that camera, which is pointing down at an angle, even if there was a sun, it has no effect on the camera because of all the filter that goes around the outside of the lens. Wipe out sun conditions for your location. Keep the prevailing winds in mind. Those are the 2 general rules. Here's the enemy. Look at it. The enemy. Look at the National Federation, with all respect to Becky Oakes and Sam and Don and I, when we meet every year, they hear my harangue at the table. I never stop. I'm a broken record. Get rid of equal quadrant tracks. The old guys drinking the Booth Bay gin, all tracks should be 100 meters on the straightaway and 100 meters on a turn. Makes pretty good sense, right? Just like a runner being 30 centimeters off a fixed curve. Makes pretty good sense to me. Narrow radius, not a good idea.